Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Live. Now, last week, we placed the spotlight on South African architecture, prompted by issues raised by a movement calling themselves Architects for Change, challenging how the South African Council for Architectural Profession is run. Well, we then brought in members of the movement and SACAP to respond to the matter. But we've decided to take the conversation forward and decided to continue that conversation. I've invited the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Institute for Architects, Obert, Chakarisa, to help us unpack some of the challenges facing the profession and obviously ascertain what SAIA's response to the matter is. But we'll try and see if we can get through that. So good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Lebo.
Let's first start with what the South African Institute of Architects is and what its mandate is.
All right. The South African Institute of Architects is a body made up of architects and architectural firms. And I can safely say that we probably represent the cream in the architectural industry.
Right. So how do people then become part of SAIA? Or is it by law? How does that work?
No. You need to be a qualified and professional architect to be a member of our organization. We, at national level, we just focus on architects only, and architectural firms. As
somebody who's been in the industry this long, what would you say are some of the challenges facing the architectural profession?
Well, what comes quite clear, and also probably coming up from the discussion last week, pertains to the regulated nature of the industry. I think what is one of our main challenges is that interpretation of the Architectural Profession Act 44 of 2000. And that is, I think, the source of the challenges we are facing now. To say, are we interpreting it in the correct way? Because there are obviously insinuations that probably the council may be acting beyond the dictates of the Act. And the nature of our organization is advocacy nature. And that is where we try and engage the council to make sure that we do have the correct interpretation of the Act. And that all of us are happy that indeed we are functioning within the parameters of the Act.
Why, in your opinion, is there's a grey area between how this Act is being interpreted? Isn't it straightforward? What do you think that is?
Well, I think there are conflicting priorities, I think, from the council's point of view. I think the council, yes, probably has other priorities that they have to meet in terms of their shareholder expectations. And you would obviously know that the council does regulate the 4 categories in the industry, which is your draftspersons, your technologists, your senior technologists, and then your architects. And the council then is expected, I think, from their shareholder to make sure that they almost try and regulate the industry in a way that probably it allows progression across the categories. But in so doing then, there is a danger then that one might actually lower the standards in terms of trying to meet that objective and also what is the reality on the ground. And that is where we come in as architects to say we need to make sure that we maintain the levels of competency that are necessary in the industry. I mean, if you just look at this building as an example, if you walk in Centon, if you walk in a shopping mall, that product is a product of our members, the architects. And we want to make sure that we remain with the competencies equaling what the product is and not dilute that kind of expertise.
What can, though, as the SAIA do in this matter? Or how are you even allowed to facilitate, or, you know, what actions can you take?
Absolutely. We, of course, respect the right of citizens in the country to express themselves, even through petitions, even through in other ways. But as an institute, our very nature expects us to perform and undertake advocacy at the highest level. And we engage with SACAP. In fact, pertaining to this matter, we pulled out matters that, of course, have a vested interest in our challenges that we have with SACAP. And we engaged SACAP on the 10th of March. Not only starting now, by the way, as the CEO myself, I have a quarterly engagement with my equivalent at the council, the registrar, and we did agree then in our last meeting that we are going to have working committees to deal with the pertinent issues that some have been raised in the petition, but some that we are already engaging with SACAP on in terms of finding resolutions around that. The point I need to also add is that the acts themselves, there is also a bit of conflict. For instance, the matter of the identification of work. The Competitions Commission then says, no, you can't have preservation of work. But the act itself, the South African Act 44 of 2000 requires that the council produce that identification of work in terms of its policy. So there's a conflict in the act. And they were saying, let's find ways that we can be able to resolve this without, of course, putting the profession into disrepute altogether.
What for you are some of the, you know, over the years, the little architecture stories that I've done was the issues facing transformation in the sector. What is your observation over the past, I don't know, 3-4 years?
Well, transformation still remains a matter. I mean, it's a government imperative, and there's no one who's got the liberty that they could choose not to transform. And of course, our profession does lag behind in terms of the transformation imperative. But as an organization, I must hasten to add that we have developed a comprehensive transformation program that we have been engaging the Minister of Public Works to try and get support in terms of implementing it. We know that, of course, we're sitting right on top of the architectural pyramid in terms of the niche of that pyramid. But we are not averse to transformation that allows others that are competently qualified and have the expertise to also aspire to be at our level. So we do have a program in place. In fact, we've got a portfolio that just looks at transformation itself. And we've even started extending it to offering bursaries, even though we've got limited resources. But we've said we want to play our part in this important governmental imperative.
And having spoken to SACAP or put your point across, do you get a sense that they want to change the status quo and the concerns raised by Architects for Change are valid?
Well, I wouldn't want to speak in detail in terms of the petition, but I'm saying that there are issues that were in the petition that are valid, that we were already engaging with, and that we have raised with SACAP, you know, because some of the people that may have signed the petition are our members.
Yeah.
And we are saying we are mandated that when matters have been brought to our attention, we engage them constructively. And this is the nature of our organization. And SACAP understands that. In fact, in our meeting with them, they indicated to us that their door remains open, and we're of course going to exploit that to make sure that together we've got a vested interest in ensuring that the profession is not put into disrepute, but the profession is respected, and matters that are pertain to the practice environment of our members are dealt with, so that they can be able to produce these nice buildings that you see.
All right, sir, thank you so much for talking to us. We will continue this conversation. We'll see if we can't bring in the Department of Public Works as well to bring in there, because their name has been mentioned as well. Obert Chakarisa is the CEO of the South African Institute for Architects. Let us know what you think at Morning Live, SABC. Let's take a quick